Hi friends, hope all of you are enjoying our videos. In this video, we are discussing about an amazing ancient architecture, Petra, more than a wonder. Petra, originally known to the Nabateans as Rakhmu, is a historical and archaeological city in southern Jordan. The city is famous for its rock-cut architecture and water conduit system. Another name for Petra is the Rose City, due to the color of the stone out of which it is carved. Petra is also considering as popular film location. Some of them are Aladdin, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, The Mummy Returns, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, Queen of the Desert, The Martian, Samsara the Indian film, Sindbad and the Eye of the Tiger, Passion of the Desert, and more than 39 films. The sandy landscape of Wadi Rum in southern Jordan serves as a location in both The Rise of the Skywalker and the Rogue One, another Star Wars films. Established possibly as early as 312 BC as the capital city of Arab Nabateans, it is a symbol of Jordan as well as Jordan's most visited tourist attraction. The Nabateans were nomadic Arabs who benefited from the proximity of Petra to the regional trade routes in becoming a major trading hub, thus enabling them to gather wealth. The Nabateans are also known for their great ability in constructing efficient water collecting methods in the barren deserts and their talent in carving structures into solid rocks. It lies on the slope of Jebel al-Madha in a basin among the mountains which form the eastern flank of Arabha, the large valley running from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba. Petra has been UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1985. The site remained unknown to the Western world until 1812, when it was introduced by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burach. It was described as a rose-red city half as old as time in a Newdigate prize-winning poem by John William Burgon. UNESCO has been described it as one of the most precious cultural properties of man's cultural heritage. On December 6, 1985, Petra was designated a World Heritage Site. Petra was named amongst the new 7 wonders of the world in 2007. Also, Petra was chosen by the Smithsonian Magazine as one of the 28 places you should visit them before you die. Renowned for its charm and ancient cultural heritage, Petra marks the achievement of an impressive civilization, the Nabatean Arabs, who perfectly carved the city into its mountains. The city of Petra, capital of Nabatean Arabs, is one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world. It is located 240 km south of the capital Amman and 120 km north of the Red Sea town of Aqaba. Petra, the world wonder, is undoubtedly Jordan's most valuable treasure and greatest tourist attraction, and it is visited by tourists from all over the world. It is not known precisely when Petra was built, but the city began to prosper as the capital of Nabatean's empire from the 1st century BC, which grew rich through trade in frankincense, myrrh and spices. Petra was later annexed to the Roman Empire and continued to thrive until a large earthquake in 363 AD destroyed much of the city in the 4th century AD. The earthquake combined with changes in trade routes eventually led to the downfall of the city, which was ultimately abandoned. By the middle of the 7th century, Petra appears to have been largely deserted, and it was then lost to all except local Bedouin from the area. In 1812, a Swiss explorer named Johannes Burach sets out to rediscover Petra. He dressed up as an Arab and convinced his Bedouin guide to take him to the lost city. After this, Petra became increasingly known in the West as a fascinating and beautiful ancient city, and it began attracting visitors and continues to do so today. Petra is also known as the Rose-Red City, a name it gets from the wonderful color of the rock from which many of the city structures were carved. The Nabateans buried their dead in intricate tombs that were cut out of the mountain sides. And the city also had temples, a theatre, and the following Roman annexation, and later the Byzantine influence, a colonnaded streets and churches. In addition to the magnificent remains of the Nabatean city, human settlement and the land use for over 10,000 years can be traced in Petra, where great natural, cultural, archaeological and geological features merge. In 2016, archaeologists using satellite imagery and drones discovered a very large, previously unknown monumental structure whose beginnings were tentatively dated to about 150 BC, the time when the Nabateans initiated their public building program. It is located outside the main area of the city at the foot of Jabal Nur and about 0.8 kilometers south of the city center, but is facing east, not towards the city, and has no visible relationship to it. The structure consists of a huge 184 by 161 feet platform with a monumental staircase along its eastern side. The large platform encloses a slightly smaller one, topped with a comparatively small building, 28 by 28 feet, which was facing east towards the staircase. The structure, second in size only to the monastery complex, probably had a ceremonial function of which not even a speculative explanation has yet been offered by the researchers. What to see? Petra is a stunning collection of tombs, temples, and ancient living spaces of the Nabatean civilization. Some main archaeological sites inside the city are the Treasury, the tomb of the Nabatean king, the monastery, an isolated mountain temple, a theatre, government buildings, and dwelling for regular people. Bab al-Sikh. Bab al-Sikh is an Arabic for gateway to the Sikh. Here you will see three massive jind blocks, which are squared monument carved out of the rock. You will then come across the obelisk tomb, which was carved by the Nabateans in the 1st century AD. Above the tomb are 4 pyramids, as well as a niche with a statue in bas-relief that is a symbolic representation of 5 people buried there. Below it is a triclinium, which was banqueting hall. In the opposing cliff face, there is a double inscription in Nabatean and Greek that refers to the burial monument. An inscription written by Abdomangkhos indicates that the tomb was to be used for himself and his family, probably in the reign of Malchus II. The dam. It was renovated by the government in 1964, in the same way originally built by the Nabateans. This dam was built to protect their capital from floods that arrived during the seasonal rain from the mountains and hill across the valley. The dam protected the city of Petra by redirecting the flood water into a tunnel, which was later titled the Dark Tunnel. Proving to be successful, the dam thus represents the Nabatean skillful and modern infrastructure. During the excavation, it was found that the original name of the old city was Rakhim. However, upon their arrival, the Greeks renamed the city Petra, meaning the rock. The Sikh. It is the ancient main entrance leading to the city of Petra, starts at the dam and ends at the opposite side of the vault. A split rock with a length of about 1200 meter and a width of 3 to 12 meter and a height up to about 80 meter. Most of the rock is natural and another part was sculptured by the Nabateans. The Sikh, the main road leads to the city, starts from the dam and ends at the Treasury. It is a rock canal that measures 160 meters in length, 3 to 12 meters in width and reaches up to 80 meters in height. The main part of the Sikh is created by natural rock formation and the rest is carved by the Nabateans. At the beginning of the Sikh, one can still view the remains of the city's gate. On the both sides of the Sikh, there are channels to draw water from Wadi Musa, from outside of the city to the inside. From the right, it is evident that the water flowed through pottery pipes, but the left channel is carved from the rock and covered with panel of stones, and there are spaces in places to filter water. At the start of the Sikh, the original Nabatean dams are visible, and these prevented the flooding in the Sikh and collected water for use. The floor of the Sikh is paved with stone slabs, part of which can be viewed in its original location. Aspects of the Sikh were decorated with Nabatean sculpture, mostly representing gods. It is believed that the statue of God and their sculpture were situated very close and even adjacent to the channel due to the Nabatean belief that the water was sacred. In addition, on the left side there are idols called Sabino statues. The Treasury, Al-Khazneh. The Sikh opens up onto Petra's most magnificent facade, the Treasury or Al-Khazneh. It is almost 40 meters high and intricately decorated with Corinthian capitals, friezes, figures and more. The Treasury is crowned by a funerary urn, which according to the local legends conceal Pahora's treasure. Although the original function is still a mystery, the Treasury was probably constructed in 1st century BC. However, in reality, the urn represents a memorial for royalty. The Treasury consists of 2 floors with a width of 25.3 meters and a height of 39.1 meters. The purpose of the Treasury is unclear. Some archaeologists believed it to be the temple, while others thought it was a place to store documents. However, the most recent excavation here has unearthed a graveyard beneath the treasury. The treasury comprises three chambers. A middle chamber with one on either side. The elaborately carved facade represents the Nabateans' engineering genius. The Street of Facades. It is a name given to the raw monumental Nabatean tomb, carved in the southern cliff face that lies past the treasury and adjacent to the outer Sikh. That when you pass the treasury, the Sikh begins to widen gradually as it reaches into an open area. On both sides, there are a number of Nabatean burial interfaces decorated with grindstone along with other decorations, and some of these interfaces were destroyed by a natural factor. It is believed that these interfaces represent some of the senior officials in the city or princes. The tomb Anesho is located in the far south of this group and overlooks the external Sikh. Anesho was the minister of Queen Nabatea Shakhila II, who ruled between 17 and 76 AD as guardians of the throne of her son Rabel II. These tombs represent courtier in the middle of the 1st century AD. The theatre. Carved into the side of the mountain at the foot of the high place of sacrifice, the theatre consists of 3 rows of seats separated by passageways. 7 stairways ascend the auditorium and it can accommodate 4,000 spectators. The monument was carved in the mountainside during the reign of King Erasthus IV. The Roman rebuilt the stage back wall. The urn tomb. This derived its name from the jar that crowns the pediment. It was probably constructed around 70 AD. It is preceded by a deep courtyard with colonnades on 2 sides. High up in the facade, there are 3 niches which give onto a small burial chamber. But it was adapted in 446 AD to serve as a Byzantine church. The Silk Tomb. Located to the north of the urn tomb, the tower dates back to the first half of the 1st century AD. The interface measures 10.8 meters in width and 19 meters in length with a door in the middle and features 4 columns. The name comes from the rich color of the sandstone. It is one of the most dramatically colored tomb in Petra. The Corinthian tomb. The Corinthian tomb, which lies after the Silk tomb, was built between 40 and 70 AD. The facade measures 27.55 meters in width and 26 meters in height. It resembles the Silk tomb and the treasury, particularly in the upper part, which is less decorated. There are 4 water basins in the front and on the side, which were used in cleansing rituals. There are 4 rooms inside the tomb, 3 of which are square-shaped and lie on the left, with one on the right that has an area of 13 square meters. Palace tomb. Located to the north of the Corinthian tomb, the palace tomb measures 49 meters in width and 46 meters in height. The lower part consists of 12 decorated columns and 4 gates. Above the threshold lie 18 pillars. The 4 gates of the cemetery lead to 4 rooms for burial, with some graves carved in the wall. This name was given to the cemetery as it resembles a palace. The Sextus Florentus tomb. Located northeast of the palace, the cemetery is lined with Latino inscription. The tomb dates back to Sextus Florentus, the government of the Arab state, and the interface, 37.10 meter and height 9.16 meter, consists of 2 floors. The first floor features 4 columns and a gate above the triangle, and the upper floor shows the remain of the column on both sides, crowned with a triangle and an urn. And there are statues above the arc and on the side and on the middle. The colonnaded street. The street represents an original Nabatean creation, later renovated during the period of Roman occupation. It would have been one of the principal shopping streets of ancient Petra. The street was rebuilt in 106 BC with a width of 6 meters. The excavation fossils indicates that there were an older road with 1 to 2 floor building lying on its side. On the left of the Portico street to the south, there is a set of stairs that leads to the courtyard, which is called the market. This is believed to have been the heart of the city and the center for various types of commercial activities and transactions during the 3rd century BC. The street continued to be used throughout the Byzantine period during the 5th and 6th century until the 6th. At the end of the road lies the triple gate, which leads to the temple of Qasr al-Bind. The street was paved in horizontal and vertical ways in order to facilitate the movement of vehicles, as it curved from the middle to allow the draining of water, which is equipped with network of channels under the street level. The main tripartite gate led to the sacred courtyard known as the Temple of Qasr al-Bind. Ahead of the entrance to the gate, there lies a set of stairs that lead to the temple, and on the other side lies the black-winged temple, which is dedicated to the god of Lat and Usa, who is the mate of the major Nabatean god. At the beginning of the colonnaded street, the nymphaeum will be at the right side, which is semicircular public fountain near the junction of Wadi Musa and Wadi al-Mataha. 6 Nabatean columns decorated the facades. They received water from a tank on the opposite side of the valley. Now it is shaded by a juniper tree, that is a 450-year-old tree. The building's pond and garden complex. Built in the 1st century AD, the entrance is located in the lower arena of the Great Temple. It was thought to have been a commercial market in the past that was linked to the portico street. However, the archaeological work showed that it was, in fact, a garden and pond. It is open on 3 sides to the water. The east-west wall on the north side represents a stone dam, which serves to store the water from the canal and is distributed through the channel along the walls of the pond. The building located at the center represents the island or a floating ship on water and is used as a place for recreation and hiking for the resident of the city. The Great Temple. The Great Temple complex represents one of the major archaeological and architectural components of central Petra. Since 1993, archaeologists from Brown University have been excavating this temple precinct. These investigations are conducted under the auspices of the Department of Antiquities of Jordan. The Great Temple Precinct, which you see before the majors, estimated 7,000 square meter, and this comprised north-south of Propylaea monumental entryway sacred area, twin exedra flanked by broad stairways, and an upper temenos, the sacred enclosure for the temple itself. In the lower temenos are triple colonnades on the east and west. Here, large limestone hexagonal pavers were positioned above an extensive water canalization system. With its red and white succeeded exterior, the Great Temple must have had a dramatic impact when set against its rose-red environment. The temple is Petra-style in antiques with solid outer walls, typical of Nabatean architecture, as is seen on the Qasr al-Bint farther to the west. Approximately 15 meters in height, the column plus the entablature they carried would place the temple's height at a minimum of 18 meters. The Great Temple measures 28 meters east-west and is 40 meters in length. The style and quality of the temple's elaborate floral friezes and acanthus-laden limestone capitals suggest that the sanctuary was constructed by the end of the 1st century BC by the Nabatean, who combined their native tradition with the classical spirit. The Great Temple was in use until some point in the late Byzantine period. Winged Lion's Temple. The temple was revealed by an electronic sounding in 1973, and since 1974, excavation at the temple of the winged lions became a major part of the activities of the American expedition to Petra, directed by Dr. Philip Hammond from Utah University. The temple had a porch in antique measuring 9.5 meters in length, from which a wide doorway leads into a square kala with engaged columns and 2 rows of freestanding columns. Opposite the doorway, there is a raised altar platform with steps built into either end of the front, which were closed by iron gates. The discovery of lead ties suggests that the platform may have been curtained. Processions were probably performed around the altar platform where the idol was standing. One of them is decorated with a stylized human face and bears the Nabatean's inscription, the goddess of Hayyan bit Nebhat. In the rear wall of the platform there was a niche for offering to the temple, a diorite statue of Osiris, dated to the 6th century BC, was discovered at the temple and was probably stored as a sacred relic. Other figures and statues representing mourning Isis suggest that the temple was dedicated to Isis and Osiris, identified with the Saras and Al-Usa Aphrodite. The column bases consist of ring marble around the plain base. Brown marble was used on the platform columns and white marble on the others. Some of the elaborate capital have representation of winged lions at the corners, hence the name of the temple. It is thought that these were the capitals of platform columns. The main floor of the temple was paved with white and brown branded marble, while the platform was paved with white and black marble. The interior was lavishly decorated with marble, plaster and stucco. Plaster affixes representing human heads, tragic masks, and floral designs were found. The temple most probably had a curved ceiling and the roof was tiled. The temple is approached for 85 meters the Wadi by a monumental entryway with a double colonnade. This entryway crossed the Wadi by a bridge. At the east side of the temple, there is a paved corridor with a drain canal under the floor. A reception area was found at the southwest corner of the temple, and there are complexes of the structure tied in with the walls. These are mostly domestic but also included a painter, a metalworker, and an altar maker's shop, an oil manufacturing installation, and a marble stairway to the west, as well as a marble worker's workshop in which fragment of marble's inscription dated to the 37 years of Aratus IV was found. The excavator proposed that this was a dictatory inscription for the temple, therefore dating its construction, but it is probable that the temple was standing before this date at the end of the 1st century BC. The final destruction of the temple and surroundings complexes were brought about by AD 363 earthquake. Church. Petra's main church is the second church in Petra, after converting the urn tomb to the church in 446 AD, made up of the church building with the corridors of length 28 meter and width 17 meter, in addition to the yard, the tower of the bank and the room side of the north and east. The church floor is characterized with mosaics paved in the north and south galleries, as well as marble in the east halfway, and mosaic imagery of geometric, animal shapes and graphic represents the four seasons, the god of sea and land, with 3 inscribed apses and corresponding 3 entrances in the western wall. It was probably built around the end of the 5th century AD and destroyed by a fire or an earthquake in the middle of the 6th century AD. Much of the building material such as capitals, door jambs and reliefs were reused from the earlier monument in Petra. The preserved floor mosaics in the church attest to its significance. Both side aisles are paved with mosaic floors. In the northern aisle, 3 parallel rows of roundel depict various animals, birds, vessels, and human forms. The eastern part of the southern aisle has 2 rows of roundels containing depictions of animal, while the remaining area represents motifs in 3 parallel rows of geometric panels. The centrally situated panels contain anthropomorphized personification of 4 seasons, oceans, earth, and wisdom. These are flanked by representation of animal and fish. In addition to the floor mosaics, many fragments of wall mosaics were found, some with human representation and with gilded tesserae. These, as well as the fragment of window pane glass, attest to a magnificent interior. The Petra church also produced the most complete example of marble church furnishing found in the region, some of which has been restored for display at the site. The Temple of Qasr al-Bint. Excavation and restoration work at Qasr al-Bint was started in the late 50s by the British School of Archaeology in Jerusalem and are still conducted by the Department of Antiquities of Jordan. The Nabatean Temple of Qasr al-Bint is standing within a large paved temenos to a height of 23 meters. It is surrounded by a peribolos, an enclosure wall to which seats were added during the time of King Aratus IV. According to 2 inscriptions, one of which still engaged between the seats. The northern facade is a tetrastyle in entice and approached through a monumental stairway, riveted with marble. An altar for sacrifice faces the cultic chapel to the north. The praise proceeded from the pronaos to the cella and the tripartite editon or Holy of the Holies according to the Syrian tradition. In the central chapel, the idols were exposed on a raised platform. A 4th century author recorded that the temple was dedicated to Dushara and his virgin mother Al-Usa Aphrodite. Greek inscriptions and a fragmentary eye idol discovered in the temple confirmed this attribution. The side chambers had balcony roofs, accessible through stairways locked in the walls. They served as a sacred symposia and were provided with marble seats. The upper floor was probably for the storage of archives and sacred objects. Qasr al-Bint was remarkable for its inner and outer stucco decoration, representing ashlar courses, relief panels, and vegetal scrolls. A marble dado riveted the inner wall to a height of 70 cm. The temple was built in a second half of the 1st century BC and reused by the Romans in the 2nd century AD. At the end of the 3rd century AD, the monument was looted and intentionally destroyed by the fire before it was struck by AD 363 earthquake. A medieval occupation was revealed on the monumental stairway. High place of sacrifice. The steep half-hour climb from the theatre up to the high place of sacrifice on the summit of the Atuf Ridge is well worth the effort. Paths and stairways, which were part of the original Nabatean processional way, lead upwards through spectacular mountain scenery until the long, flat summit is reached. The most immediately obvious monument as one reaches the top are the two 7-meter high rock obelisks, which were made by carving away the surface of the mountain to leave only these two protuberances, a formidable undertaking. The obelisks stand some 30 meters apart on east or west alignment and probably represents the two most important Nabatean gods, Dushera and his consort Al-Usa. Across the gully lies the high place of sacrifice, the best preserved of all such sacred places of the ancient world. You can also see the city center from this point. The Farasa Valley. It is located on the western side of Mount Altar, and most importantly, it can be seen on the road to the valley fountain. A lion, which is carved in the rock, may have religious significance, and in particular that there is an altar with a small face of this fountain. There are also remaining channels of water carved in rock that lead to water tanks. Some parts are built and other carved with a large reservoir depth of almost 17 meters. It was a pilgrimage route to the high place of sacrifice. Many dedicatory inscriptions were engraved at the beginning of route. There are many remarkable tombs in this valley, the most beautiful one being the Renaissance tomb, the Garden Temple. Located in Wadi Farasa, adjacent to the tomb of Roman soldier, the Garden Temple's function is as yet uncertain. The term may be misleading since there are no burial niches. It appears more probable that it may have been part of Nabatean water system. As to the right of the structure, there is an immense retaining wall that creates a natural water reservoir. The Garden Temple may have been used to supply the use of water for its rituals, or simply to supply water to Wadi Farasa. The tomb of Roman soldier and funeral ballroom. 200 BC to 200 AD, recent archaeological evidence has indicated that this well-proportioned facade was probably part of a complex that included in front of it, giving an interesting new insight into Nabatean's architecture. The tomb was accessible through a large courtyard with portico and two-story building on both sides and a triclinium opposite the entrance. It is decorated with engaged pilasters and columns that frame 3 niches with a statue of military officer in the central niche, hence the tomb's name. Excavation demonstrated that the courtyard was built in the Nabatean period, around the second half of the 1st century AD, but was remodeled in Roman period. The Renaissance tomb. It is an elegant facade with an intricately made set of crown and 6 Nabatean jars, crowned by a gable that has 3 funerary urns at the corners framed by Nabatean engaged pilasters. The interior has rock carved locally that were not used for burials. The tomb may be dated to 2nd century AD. The monastery. It is one of the largest monuments in Petra, measuring 47 meter wide by 48 meter high. It was built on the model of the Khazneh, but there has a bas-reliefs are replaced by niche to house sculptures. A column portico extends off the facade. The interior is occupied by 2 side benches and altar against the rear wall. It was used as a biclinium for the meeting of religious association and dates to the early 2nd century AD during the reign of King Rabal II. In the hall, it was reused as a Christian chapel, and crosses were carved in the rear wall, thus the name monastery. How to reach Rose Red City, Petra. Petra is a 3-hour drive from Amman and 2 hours from the Red Sea port of Aqaba. Buses run the route daily, along with organized tours and private taxis. The Jordan Trail passes through Petra, allowing hikers to connect with Dana and Wadi Rum. How to visit. Reducing Petra to a single day trip is a common mistake. Remember that Petra spreads out over 100 square miles, 4 times the size of Manhattan. While donkeys, camels and horse buggies can hasten travel bit time between highlights. Most of Petra's sites are best reached on foot. Come ready to hike some steep terrain. Spend at least one night in town and plan your sightseeing as a series of hikes. Petra's licensed guide have exceptional knowledge and will add a deeper dimension to your visit by showing you secret tombs and hidden details you would never find on your own. Don't miss the Petra by Night show that delivers a haunting and unforgettable visuals. When to visit? Petra is open year-round, so choose your own adventure. Spring and fall offer the most temperate weather with fantastic light. Summer is beautiful but can turn unbearably hot. January and February are the coolest months, with the occasional downpour. Remember, the high elevation means nights are cold. Sunrise and sunset are when Petra truly glows with changing color, so come early and stay late. Tickets. Entry into the site of Petra is only permitted to visitors holding valid tickets. These are available at the visitor center and can be purchased on arrival. Prices differ for foreigners and locals, and a range of ticket types are available depending on the length of the stay and the number of visits to be made into Petra. Fees for the accommodated visitors who stay at least one night in Jordan. Fees for the accommodated visitors who visits Petra in the first day of his or her arrival from the border. For the accommodated visitors who visit Petra in the first day of their arrival from the borders, they will have to pay the border ticket fee, 90 JD, and return in the next day to get a refund of 40 JD. Fees for non-accommodate visitors. Please submit your valid passport or ID to the ticket office. Tickets are available by cash or credit cards. Children under 12 years of age are free of charge. The residence fee is 1 JD as long as the resident is holding a valid residence card issued for 1 year at least. Jordan Pass ticket doesn't include the night event, Petra by Night. Read more about Petra by Night tickets. Optional services. Tourist guide tickets. Carriages price. The price for back and forth tour. You can make an appointment for return. No vehicles or bicycles are allowed beyond the main gate. The carriage price for 2 people. Petra by Night. Complete your Petra experience with a visit of Petra Night Show. This event is a magical way to see part of the rock city by candlelight and explore the old city, which has become a world wonder. Incomparable experience starts by walking the entire city to the Treasury, lit with over 1,500 candles to bring the major attraction due to the spectacular view it has. Petra by Night runs every Monday, Wednesday and Thursday of each week. Starts at 8:30 from Petra Visitor Center and delivers you back by licensed guide to the Visitor Center around 11:30 p.m. The entrance fee for Petra by Night is 17 JD. Children under 10 years are admitted free of charge. Tickets can be bought at the Visitor Center shop, local tour agencies in Petra or at your hotel reception. An advance reservation is not possible. Unlimited tickets are available for Petra by Night show. A valid daylight ticket is required. Buying the daylight ticket in advance to do Petra by Night is available from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Visitor Center. Issues. The site suffers from a host of threats including collapse of ancient structures, erosion from flooding, improper rainwater drainage, weathering from salt flow, improper restoration of ancient structures and unsustainable tourism. The last has increased substantially, especially since the site received widespread media coverage in 2007 during the new 7 Wonders of the World Internet and Cell Phone campaign. In an attempt to reduce the impact of these threats, the Petra National Trust was established in 1989. It was worked with numerous local and international organizations on projects that promote the protection, conservation and preservation of the Petra site. Moreover, UNESCO and ICOMOS recently collaborated to publish their first book on human and natural threats to the sensitive World Heritage sites. They choose Petra as its first and the most important example of threatened landscapes. The presentation, Tourism and Archaeological Heritage Management at Petra, Driver to Development or Destruction, in 2012 was the first in a series to address the very nature of these deteriorating buildings, cities, sites and regions. The next books in the series of deteriorating UNESCO World Heritage Sites will include Machu Picchu, Angkor Wat and Pompeii. People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. Petra released a video in 2018 highlighting abuse against working animals in Petra. Petra claimed that animals are forced to carry tourists or pull carriages every day. The video showed handlers beating and whipping working animals, with beating intensifying when animals pause. Petra also revealed some wounded animals, including camel with fly-infested open wounds. The Jordan Authority running the site reopened by opening a veterinarian clinic and by spreading awareness among animal handlers. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you like the video then make sure you hit that thumb up, and please don't forget to subscribe our channel and click the bell icon for new notifications.